This is Leadership in Action, and I'm Casey Cheshire. Join me as we delve deep into the passions, expertise, and experiences of Boston area innovators. Sponsored by the Boston chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. This is Leadership in Action. All right, here we are. We are live. We're back. It's not a fluke because there's more than one show on this podcast. And I am excited for today's guest. I can't wait to introduce you to him. He is a serial entrepreneur, seasoned IT executive, strategic, goal-oriented thinker, and we're going to get into some of his process for doing that. He's a mentor. He's a former professor. He's passionate about mentoring, a topic near and dear to me as well. I'm sure we'll get into that. Host of the B Talks podcast from Bcombinator, president of EO Boston. I can't even believe I'm talking to you. That's okay. We go back. Co-founder of Bcombinator, head of marketing and sales programs at Red Hat, Luis Cortes. Welcome, sir.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Casey. I forgot you could say all those things about me, but man, let's go with it.
Yeah, no, dude. If you want to, clip that recording and make it your wake up alarm every day, just,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's it.
That's gonna pump it up every morning.
Speaking of bump it up, I'm trying this new coffee flavored Coca-Cola.
No kidding.
I'll let you know how that goes.
Okay.
Sugar free. But if this show gets hyped about halfway in, you'll know why.
Okay. So you don't need Monster. It's okay with Coca-Cola with extra coffee on it, right?
Exactly. Same. Either way, they all work. They all work. So
I still remember the first time I tasted cherry Coke, and I was like, that's an interesting taste. I don't think I'm gonna be a fan.
Not your thing?
Anyway, not really. It's a little bit too sweet for me, I think.
Too sweet. Too sweet. Well, you just got to add a little amaretto to that, maybe, or something.
Oh, that's an idea.
Some rum, I think, is the answer.
Exactly.
Heard it here. See, if you haven't already, you've already started learning things. Rum, Coca-Cola flavored coffee, or the inverse of that. Either way, I'm going to stop talking because it's time to pass you something. This is heavy, but I know you work out. So 1 second. Okay, here it is. All right, here is Thor's hammer.
Oh my goodness.
Go ahead, take that. It's the actual Thor's hammer.
Okay, I'm taking it.
Got it? Okay, sweet.
Yep.
So take Thor's hammer for me and smash some kind of myth, bogus strategy, misconception, set the record straight once and for all. We have so many misconceptions about leadership, about entrepreneurship. What's driving you crazy these days?
So it's fascinating. You start there. I think it's a great topic because I work with entrepreneurs all the time, both in EO Boston, both in my own incubator. And one of these myths is like entrepreneurship looks like anarchy, right? There are all these many things need to be done. So many people working at once. We just want to get to our vision and raise money and stuff. And actually, it's totally the other way around. Entrepreneurship is not anarchy. Success is a process. I think that's the best way to answer that.
Success is a process, man.
Absolutely.
You're already like we know how, we're going to quote you that's the quote. So success is a process. It's not anarchy. It's not fly by the seat of your pants and hope it works out. There's a specific first, second step to it.
There's definitely, at least my experiences, if you really want to get serious about setting up a company that means something that you're really getting into your vision, you really need to think about what's the process behind success. Because if you look at people that have made it, it may look great at the beginning. This doesn't mean that you don't change direction when you're 3 months into it because you realize your idea is crap and you should actually be doing something else. That's totally fine, right? That's called refocusing strategy. But there is a plan and there's a process behind every successful company out there.
You raise a great point. The idea that at the beginning and at the end, it looks great. At the beginning, I'm leaving my job. This is great. Hey, I have this idea, everybody. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. And at the end, it's like, oh, look how successful that company is. But all the stuff in the middle is where the hard work happens. And then you're right. You could pivot 9 times and no one ever talks about that. What they talk about is the final product happens to be taking over the planet. Do you have a particular, is like a numbered process? Is it ordered? How do you approach it? What are your first, second, third steps? How do you map that out?
So there's 2 ways of looking at it, right? So on one hand is you definitely need to have an idea, a vision of what you want your customers to be successful with, right? So I always say, so many entrepreneurs are thinking about the money, right? I need money to raise to do this. I need money to hire people. I need money to do marketing and money here, money there. And I'm like, dude, money is the last thing you need to think about. Money is the consequence of doing many things the right way. You need to hire the right people, create the right product, pitch to the right customers. And if you have enough satisfied customers, those customers will pay for your service. Then you start making money. But if you're starting to think first about how much money I'm going to make, et cetera, that's a recipe for fail. So that's part of the process, right? The process starts thinking about what customer need I'm going to satisfy. That's the first thing, right? Which is paired with what's my vision? Why am I doing this? So if you're doing this for the money, you're going to fail. If you're doing this just to satisfy some customer, but you don't even know how or why, you're going to fail. You really need to align your vision, what you want to do. And actually, I'll give you an example here. I was reading this great book the other day. I don't know if you guys have seen it, Play Bigger.
Play bigger. Okay.
Yep. Play Bigger by Peterson, Lockheed, Maney. And one of the things that they say, and I 100% believe that, is that many entrepreneurs start fulfilling a market niche that in something that they need, right? So you have a need as a person, right? So for instance, one of the examples they give there, right? The guy that invented the neoprene suits, right? So when you go surfing, for instance, when you go scuba diving, right?
Yeah.
So man, the water is cold up here.
Yeah.
Up
It
here,
is cool.
definitely in the East Coast, right? When
Not
I moved
Miami,
here,
that's for sure.
yeah, exactly. But when I moved here, from Barcelona in Spain like 7 years back, one of the first things that surprised me is I went to the beach and I was like, I'm gonna have such a great day here. And I put my toes in the water and I was like, yeah, maybe I'm gonna sunbath and that's gonna be it, right? Because in
Right.
Barcelona water is warm, not here. And you have white sharks here, for God's sake, right?
Do we?
So the water is cold, yeah, in like in,
Okay.
in the Cape
In the
Cod area,
Cape,
right?
yeah.
Exactly, in the Cape, right? So this guy, I forget his name, he said, I love surfing, but the water is always so freaking cold. I would like to surf like every day, every night. I
Yeah.
can't do that because it's too cold. So the guy invented what? The neoprene suit, which is great success, right? And many
Wow.
companies start with that, right? So he had a need, and then he decided, hey, maybe other people want to do that because he had a passion. His vision was, I want to enjoy surfing every minute, right? So if you have that passion, that's the number one thing, because then you cope it, you pair it with how are you going to satisfy your customer. That's the first thing in this process.
I love that. You have a need, and it might even be your own need because you know that best. Like you can see someone else's need, but you don't exactly know why. They're telling you they need something. Oftentimes, I'm talking with Tina and she's telling me challenges she's having with whatever, like all the different things. And then it's like, huh, I could see making a company for every single one of her problems, but I don't necessarily know that need as much as I know it my own self. Like if I have a need, I'm like, okay, I know why. I can extrapolate. I can make it for an easy customer for myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're solving your own problem, right? So I'm not saying that is the only way to start your company, right? But definitely so many successful companies started there, right? Mark Zuckerberg, he just wanted to meet girls, right? So what did he did? He started with the early version of Facebook, right? I tried to make like, however, some of the people have taken that idea some other ways, like Tinder and some other things, right?
Yeah.
But again, it always comes back to, in many cases, to, something you need, something you want to do. You
Yeah.
don't find somebody else doing that for you, you build your own company.
And even if these things are so important, maybe you're just starting out as an entrepreneur. A lot of fellow members of EO Boston are listening to this, even people that don't know about EO yet, or they're interested in it. And these are the kind of things that I'm writing notes down over here because I may have started something and not even realized why. And I found that the most intentional CEO wins, the most intentional entrepreneur wins. So even if I've gone two steps beyond this, I need to make sure I come back to this part of the process and get really, really clear
Yep.
on that vision, what in that pain and that what am I solving? Why am I, and to your point, why am I solving it? Because I think when it
Exactly.
when it gets hard, if you've figured that out, if there's a why, I'm sure, Mark Zuckerberg's why was strong enough so that he was like, wow, I could go to sleep or I could finish this app. And he's like, I'm going to finish it, but like, it's not easy, but at some point something needs to sustain you. So if that why is figured
Exactly.
out,
Yep.
yeah. Okay,
Yep. Yep.
cool.
Totally. I think
Step
that
one.
that's so important.
All right. Is it
Yep.
magic from there
Well, actually, yeah. I mean,
more?
there's definitely not magic, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I think definitely, persistence has something to do with it. I was really reading recently about J.K. Rowling, the writer of Harry
Yeah.
Potter
Yeah. Tell me
series,
about it.
right? Yeah. So she she was saying in this interview that she presented her first manuscript to, like, 20 plus publishers, and everybody was like, yeah, who's interested in a magic and a wizard kit or something, until finally someone accepted to
God.
publish their first book, second book, third book. Then came the movies, and now I think it's just the billionaire in Britain, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So persistence definitely plays a big role there. And I think, once you have your vision, your product, the second key thing is a team. My experience, and there's many entrepreneurs out there proving me wrong, right? By my experience is, I always want to work with a team. I want to have a team of people working with me, like co-founders, partners, whatever you name it, right? Because I may know a lot about this little fraction of what I want to do, but I don't know a lot about so many other things that are critical for my business. And I want to surround myself with people that are smarter than I am, so they help me focus and get better at those areas where I am not. Right. So,
Yeah.
I've been working a lot in marketing and sales, but, operations, I know a little bit, but it's not my forte, or professional services, or finance, or so many other things, or product development. I'm not a programmer. I can't code an app, right? I need people that will help me do that.
Yeah.
So in my case, I've always created new businesses with partners. I know people that have gone solo, and that works too. I'm not saying that's not the only way to do it, but in my case, I always set up new businesses with partners.
Oh, so not even the team that gets the work done, but you always, because that there's always a debate around like setting up a partnership is. Dave Ramsey has a quote: "The only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership." And then how many times do we have conversations and it's the partnership that's it's like a real relationship. It's like having another spouse, and sometimes they go well, sometimes they don't. But you're saying that for your experience, you love having that other person or people
Yep.
with their they're bought in as well because they're looking to get out of it too. And
Totally. So
yeah.
that's been my experience from the company that we sold to Red Hat Polymedia. That was with my co-founder Eric, and there was a third founder at the beginning that we bought out a few years later for a number of reasons.
Okay.
And I'm currently racing Bcombinator with we are 5 co-founders, and everybody's good at something, and it makes
Wow.
strength. One of the things I love about that is that I don't need to worry about things I don't really know about. Right, I can contribute on my from my angle. And the other important thing is that we are always challenging each other, right? So why are we doing this? Does it make sense? If there's another way of doing it, hey, you decided to do this the other day. I think that's cool, but how does that impact me, right? So I can learn how you think, so I can improve myself too. So all that interaction, etc. For me, that's my style. But again, I'm not saying it's the
Oh,
only
sure.
way. My style is I need to be complemented by people that are smarter than me.
So it sounds like you found a way to make this work. It sounds like you found a way to make these kind of business relationships function, even if you need to, buy someone out in the process, um, but still be successful in the end. Do you have any, like your top three tips on how do 3, 10, 21 on how do you make these business partnerships work? Like, let's say I'm launching, a company and I'm hesitant to necessarily have a partner
Right.
in there. What kind of things should I be looking for?
For me, there's one is passion about what we're trying to do together. So if if and a very simple way of saying that is, if you just can't contain yourself at 9:45 by night to send a text to the other person or people in the team saying, hey, I just thought about this thing, we need to talk about this first time in the morning, and then for 10 minutes people just start jumping in, and it's 10 p.m., right? I'm
Yeah.
not saying that we need to do this. I'm the number one fan of family time, chill out time, and everything, right? But if you have the passion, nobody's gonna be bothered by something like that because we share that, right? That's something that tells me if people are in or not. The other thing is people are giving way more than they are asking. And that for me is so important, because at the beginning you can't even have money or physical space, but everybody has one thing, which is time. And you decide what you use your time for. So the moment I'm start working with someone, just bouncing ideas about building something clicks. We start designing a product. How could we do this? So I know this person that could do this, and this 2, 3, 4 weeks go like this, and you're spending so many hours,
Mm,
right, without asking about anything in exchange. You're not saying, hey, I'm thinking about maybe leaving my business. Do you think I could get a salary here? Dude, we don't even have a company you're already thinking about getting paid for the work that we're doing
yeah.
here. that for me, I mean, that maybe it's not a red flag, could be an orange flag, because I totally respect that people, of course, we all need to make money and pay our invoices, right? But at the same time, it's like, hey, at the beginning especially, you need to give so much more that you're getting back. And
Yeah.
then my experience is, when it gets to a point when things need to crystallize into, we need to set up a company, we need to raise some money or put some money, right? That's when the rubber meets the road, and you
Yeah.
actually see where people kind of stay. So whatever you're giving before there's anything, or maybe, maybe the idea is just not worth it, you forget about it, but maybe, a year later you find the same person and start doing something again. I think that commitment of time and energy when there is nothing to be built is one of the ways in which you can evaluate if you're working with the right person.
What's your take on equity? Do you dish out parts of the company right off the bat? How do you separate? Do you hold that back for a little bit? What do you do there?
That's a good question. And I think it varies a lot. I don't think there's a
Hmm.
single recipe for that. In some companies, definitely there's going to be a very strong leader and maybe one or two or three other people that are going to have like maybe a less of a percentage. In some of the companies, one of the companies where we're thinking about starting up really requires a lot of expertise from four specific fields. So it looks like it's going to be, 25 each, something.
Hmm.
I don't know if there are rules there. I think the key is that everybody kind of feels comfortable, not only now but moving forward, right? So if
Yeah.
this thing is going to be a success in 5 years time, and we're going to be making $1 million in profits here, are we okay with this split of that money, or if we sell it out, or based on what we need to contribute through this time, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have a specific answer for you, but I think feeling comfortable with that, I think it's very important, because at the end of the day, we need to make decisions. This
Yeah.
needs to be something that moves forward, right? So, if you have a founder that has like 51% and he's always, or she's always making the decisions, and everybody else is like, yeah, that's probably not going to work. So then I think the team needs to be comfortable with the structure, with the structure that you choose.
Okay. So we've got the vision, we've got the team, your partners, the product.
Yep. So then it comes something that we call the problem solution, right? Problem solution fit, that I call, which has to do with, is the product that we're building the right way to solve the solution for the type of customers that we're looking for, right? One way of starting to work on that is actually go out and interview potential customers. So it's like, hey, I'm creating this new solution, this new product for this. This is going to solve this type of problems. But that's what I think about it, right? You need to go talk to actually the people that are going to buy the product from you, even before you start building it, right? So, and it's interesting because some entrepreneurs are like, well, I don't want to give my idea away, this is my intellectual property. And I'm always like, dude, there's only one team in the face of this planet that can actually be successful with this. These are you guys. Even if we wrote this, we recorded a video, put it up on the
Right.
internet, there's no way in which anybody else will do the same thing the exact same way. There will be something different because of their geography, because of the way they do business, or I don't know exactly why, right? So talking to customers, making sure that what you're designing is kind of a good idea. And actually, even getting letters of intent from those customers that if you end up building the
Mm,
product, they're going to buy it from you,
right.
right? So that helps a lot with investors, for instance. That helps a lot to go to other customers and say, hey, do you have these customers that are willing to buy this way, actually build it, type of thing.
Yeah.
So trying to get that, and then from there building what we buy with what you call the minimum viable product. So that's when we really need to build something. It could be an app, it could be a service, it could be whatever you're building, and actually show it to those customers and say, hey, this may not be 100% of what you asked, but we're 40% there, right? Are you ready to pay for this, or not, right? Which is the other angle to this. And maybe I'm jumping a couple of steps here, but asking for money, it's a skill that is underrated, man.
Mm.
Meaning, go to your customers and tell them, hey, if I make this modification to the product so you buy it, would you pay for it? You are asking me for a pilot, would you share 50% of that so I don't lose money and you are actually have some skin on the game, right? And it's not about the money, it's about the skin on the game. It's about
Yeah.
making sure that the customers are actually putting some effort there.
And I'm sure some of them say yes. And if they say no, then maybe it's not that much. It's not really that worth to them. There's been many a time when I've needed something, and if someone said, "Yeah, we can we could add that for $100 or a month. Yeah, man, invoice me now. When can you
Exactly,
get it
right?
for me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe, maybe you're selling a subscription and you ask the customer, Mr. Customer, I'm going to give you a 25% discount if you sign for the whole year.
Hmm. Yeah, why not? Right? Yeah, why not? Um, and you actually said something interesting, and yeah, the MVP, the minimum viable product, definitely a that's one of those terms that you just need to know, and most of us know. But the idea that that fits for services as well. I'm kind of a services guy,
Totally.
and I always look at the green grass in the product world for sure. But as a service, you can offer a minimum viable service too. It
Absolutely.
don't offer that thing that you can barely address or reach. Offer that thing that you can knock out of the park, earn a referral from, earn repeat business from, and then use that
Exactly.
and then build from there.
Yep. And yeah, and the other thing is there's lots of, you can innovate a lot with that too. So is there a way to turn that service into a subscription, something that your
Mm.
customers have to pay for getting, right? Instead
Hmm.
of just having to sell every time what you're doing, right? So there's many ways in which you can combine that. Or is there a part of your service that maybe you can turn into a product that you complement with some customization or some additional service or something, so you actually can scale better? Because as you know, especially the services based on man hours, it's difficult to scale because you need people, right?
Yeah.
So is there a way to part of that turn it into an application or a software or something that helps you have to use less people's time, it scales better, maybe the customer pays a subscription, which gives you, one of the magical things, which is cash visibility, right? All of a sudden you say,
Yeah.
in the next 6 months, if nobody actually drops the service on me, I'm going to make this much money, and then I can do this and keep growing my business, right? So I'm a great fan of subscription based models.
100%. And recurring revenue is gold, for sure. Are there any steps after this? Because it seems like this is one of the areas. Remember, you're gonna recycle. You're gonna be in it for a while,
Right.
finding that.
Exactly.
I like how you called it a problem solution fit. I've heard like product market fit, but this is more clear by actually saying problem solution. Like, is there a problem
Exactly.
that you can solve? And you said for a particular kind of customer, which I think is important too.
Exactly.
Understanding specifically, it's not every CMO. It's CMOs of companies of this shape and size. You're getting very targeted. Are there steps after this, or is this kind of the part you hang out in?
So yeah, so I think once you have got into the stage in which you already have validated that there's a product market fit, you kind of start on marketing and selling, because now you have something that you can promote, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to do, in my experience, some pre-marketing to kind of start promoting whatever you're building and see if there's traction, right?
Yep.
So you set up some landing pages, you start doing some email marketing out or some social media advertisement or whatever it is. So you start testing how the messages are on the product, or if the product itself kind of works before you're ready. I think that's totally fine. But I think you need to get to do that once you're closer to this state in which you are building your product, and then you need to start scaling. So the thing is, okay, now I have a product that some customer has said it's okay. So what's the best way to reach those customers with, or digital marketing?
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever it is. If it's B2B, maybe you need to use distributors or salespeople or whatever it is, right? And then start really focusing on your segment, on the niche that you choose. My experience with this is I've built both platform-based companies and application-based companies, and increasingly it's more and more difficult to build like big platform-based companies that serve
Right.
everybody. You really need to find a niche. Like you want to be like the big fish in the small pond, right? So many entrepreneurs say, "Hey, I'm looking at this $7 billion products, and I'm gonna sell I don't know how many millions in subscriptions or whatever it is." And like, dude, I mean, for you're four boys, four girls, and a cat in a garage, right? How are you gonna serve a $7 billion market? There's no way you're gonna do that, right? So
Right.
find a smaller market that you can totally satisfy, that you can be the big fish in the small pond, and then jump to another pond based on that
Mm.
experience, right? So you keep expanding what you're doing into something else.
Big fish, small pond, and then that really key part after that, you can always jump to a bigger pond.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then, but now you have a name, now you have customers, now you have revenue, now you have all the tricks that you learned from the other pond,
Right.
which are going to help you be successful in the next one.
Wow. Love that. Love that, man. This is fantastic. I feel like I'm distilling your brain down. Anything else we should know about this process of success?
I think at this point it's, what you were saying about product solution. I think there's, especially when you're talking to investors, I think there's a third area there, which is product solution benefit. Sorry, it's problem, solution, and benefit. So basically, customers have this type of problem because of this and this and this reason, right? We have the solution to that problem that does this and this for them, and this is the benefit that they get out of it. So
Right.
that's like a trifecta or triangle or whatever you call it. It's a very simple way of pitching to your investors, pitching to new customers, pitching to employees. Always think about what problem you're solving, what solution you're providing, and what's the benefit to your customers of doing that.
Mic drop. There it is. There it is. This is good. This is really good. I'd love to shift a little bit and talk more about um, when you're in that role as the founder, you're an entrepreneur, especially as your organization grows around you, it can start feeling lonely at the top, for no better words than, hey, lonely at the top. I mean,
Mhm.
we've heard the cliche, but guess what? It's actually true. How have you found what kind of things have you done and groups have you joined that have helped you combat that isolation
Right.
and connect more with other people?
Yep. Well, it's fascinating because I always tell the story that my background is in business administration, and my wife's too. And actually, we met in college, right? So we
Okay.
know about business. We can talk business all day,
Yeah.
and it's something that we kind of relate to and understand, right? But the thing is, being an entrepreneur, it's a very specific. I was going to say, I don't know if it's sickness, obsession, or you you name it, right? But that's a way to live, right? Which is very different from your regular business people, if you will, right?
Mm,
So there's so many things that happen to you when you're an entrepreneur that you feel when you are an entrepreneur, because you may have, every 2 weeks you're trying to make sure that you meet the payroll, right? And you need to make sure that your customers are paying, and you need to make sure that so many things actually happen, right? Because if one of those things fails, then your whole world changes, and you need to focus on solving this, because you know where it is, because you're an entrepreneur as well, right?
right.
Some
Yeah.
of these things I can share with my wife from the business perspective, but the feeling of being an entrepreneur, you will understand that better, and so many others as well, right?
Yeah.
So, and having a partner or partners, as is my experience, helps up to a certain extent, because if you have a problem with your partner, you're not going to talk to him or her, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So, exactly. So, in from that perspective, when in 2008, I joined the Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and that's been one of the best decisions that I made in life, because
Yeah.
one of the things that we do there is that we meet with other entrepreneurs with which you don't compete, right? So we meet once a
Mm,
month in something we call the forum groups, and then we share experiences that we've had, things that are bothering us, problems that we have in our company, and then you get unbiased and non judgmental experiences from them. So you don't get advice. They tell you, hey, I was in an experience like that, and this is what happened to me, right? So all of a sudden, first you feel understood, you don't feel judged, you're receiving good experience from other people that actually experience situations similar to you. And
yeah.
that's been so helpful in my career, because I've learned so much from them.
Yeah.
And so that's my key way to try to find people with trust. If you need an organization such as EO, that totally works. If you have a group of people that you can talk to, as long as you don't feel judged, it's confidential, and you can really, pour your heart out, and get all those learnings from them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you hit it right on there too. The idea that we're sharing experiences. I always found that was interesting about EO that, and for those that don't know that when people are sharing a challenge, EO forbids you from telling them what to do. Right. A
Exactly.
lot of other groups start with V and other groups, they want you to send out ideas. But the point is we don't know from your 2 minute story or even a 20-minute story what you should actually do. Like it's so, people giving you advice don't really know your situation and they may never know because they haven't been working in your startup for 9 years like you have and they don't know exactly what you're talking about. And so rather than try to problem solve for each other, we just simply want to share some of our own experiences that seem like they're related. And I found so much more comes from that. I sometimes someone, hey, I have this challenge. Well, you should do this. Oh yeah, I kind of knew that, but I wasn't sure if it will happen. But instead, if you share experiences, well, I had a challenge like that myself, and here's what I did. Here's what happened. Here's how I feel about it, and that
Exactly.
you take it as it is. And I find people take their own takeaways, or take their own they find their own takeaways from your experience. And maybe you thought you were trying to emphasize some other point, but they heard something in there. They heard what they needed to hear in that experience share.
Mhm.
And it's really magical.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you learn so much, and you can also contribute to other people with your own experiences, right?
Yeah.
So, and then at the end of the day, people will share what happened, or maybe not. It's totally
Right.
fine, but
Right.
there's always this satisfaction that, hey, I shared something, you may do something good with it or not, but it's totally fine. Or I needed help. I have all these new crazy ideas that I could try that I would have never thought myself because I don't
Right.
have your experience, I don't have your attitude, your looks, your smarts, etc. Yes, I'm just a simple human being here trying to learn from other people, and that's it, to your word. I think that's one of the few magical things in life that I'm experiencing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of the benefit of the experience too is that I remember recently just the idea of, something bad is happening in that, circling back to the whole lonely at the top thing. Well, if you think you're the only one that's ever experienced that, it might feel kind
Yeah,
of isolating. But oftentimes, if I share a challenge and then I get 8 stories back saying, yeah, I've been through that too. It sucks. Here's what I did. But just even hearing that other people have been through that alone made me feel better. Even before I got to trying to fix the situation, just understanding that I wasn't the only person experiencing that particular challenge. In fact, some other people had worse challenges. So I kind of felt a little bit better about it
yeah,
afterward.
exactly. Yeah, sometimes you think you are having the worst time on earth, and then somebody else shares something and like, okay, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
look so worried
Yeah.
about this, right? But at
Right.
the end of the day, yeah, you're when you're in pain, it's like when you have a toothache, right? You feel that's the worst thing that's happening until somebody else has the same thing or even worse.
Right. Right. Got another question for you. Um, if you could ask 100 other CEOs one question, you'd love to know the answer from 100 other CEOs. What question would you want to ask them?
Ah, that's a good question. Something I would want to ask them is, I think I would go back to how to choose the right people for your team. So what you
Mm,
do to really, when you're growing, because if you're lucky, your company grows. And I've been in that situation a lot of time, right? When you're really need to hire very, very fast, you don't have a lot of time to hire these two, three, four, five, 10 people in like 1 or 2 weeks. What's the best way for you to see or to, I mean, you're gonna get wrong from time to time, right? But I would ask them, yeah, what would be your best strategy or your best questions or your best way to really pick the right people for whatever you're trying to do?
that's a really good point. It does all come down to people in the
Yeah,
end, and I even know just recently going through a bit of a interview phase. Sometimes that you get kind of nervous, even if you've done it a million times. Like this is a really important role, and I've messed up enough hires to know that
exactly.
and that I'm actually not good at hiring. I need to have other people in that process with me, because I just like people. So
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
be the worst HR person. All right, well, let's have him talk to Casey, see if he likes him. Oh, I love
Oh,
him.
I love them. Don't even ask me.
Not certified, qualified, anything. But man, what a great guy. We had a great conversation. We talked all about Boston or something, but
Yep,
yeah, getting
exactly.
other people I found has been really helpful for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep, definitely. There's people that are totally experts in that. So yeah, maybe that's a good question. That's a good answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'll do? I'll ask other people in this podcast your question. And
Okay,
so stay tuned for other episodes.
thank you. I like
Hey,
that.
see, this is how we get at least one other listener, because
Exactly.
you'll want to know what the answer was to your
Yeah,
question for sure.
yeah. Thank you.
Uh, well, another one that speaking of all the different things we're talking about here, what keeps you up at night? What are the challenges that keep you up at night? Maybe it is even that people thing, but I don't know. There's some
Right.
things when it comes to running a
Hmm.
business that kind of do keep you.
I am lucky that I am able to relax pretty well, and when I really drop in the bed. It's like, I hit it very, very fast. So
Right.
I'm lucky from that perspective. I do some meditation. I'm able to relax very, very fast. I sit in a plane and I immediately, in 2 minutes I'm out until the thing starts flying, and
Nice.
then I start working. So I think, part of why I don't really have a lot of worries from that perspective is because I've learned to be kind of relaxed and balanced a little bit, if you will, right?
Right.
Having said this, my family, my kids, trying to make sure that I do the right thing for them and that I transmit to them as much experience as I can while they still listen to me, if you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean, right? So I have a 10
Yeah.
and a 14-year-old, right?
Okay.
So they still learn, they still listen, but they're starting to be, they have their own personalities, to make their own decisions, to fight
God.
back on things. So you
Yeah.
really need to be sure about what you're saying, how you're saying it, and mostly, acting by example, because you're looking at, that perfectly right as well. They're looking at up to you every time, right? They are really following everything you say, everything you do. So, sometimes say, I love this quote that says, what type of world are we leaving to our kids, right? And
Mm-hmm.
but the right question is, what type of kids are we leaving to the world, right?
True.
Because that's you can do something about your kids, not a lot, but it's
Yep.
your. And it was so funny the other day. My daughter, who is the older, so my boy was fighting me on something I forget now, and then my daughter jumped in and said, "Hey, dad is just trying to help you make the right decision here." And I was like, I couldn't have said it better. That was, I was trying, I don't know exactly
Wow.
what was going on, right? But she was like, hey, and I'm like, whoa, that's my kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, probably trying to get the best, the best possible people out in the world is one of my key things here.
Yeah. What kind of kids are we leaving for the world? That's really interesting. You mentioned the meditation? Do you have an app? Do you use one of those apps?
Actually, not. Actually, I started meditating many, many years ago, and I try to do at least half an hour every morning. I have up and downs because depending on work and travel and many other things. But I really, I do. I learned to do like it's more. I don't know if it's more relaxation than meditation. I don't follow any app,
Yeah.
even though
What's your process?
yeah, what I do is I try to, I just sit down with my legs crossed. If the weather is nice, like now, I sit outside and just listen to nature, and just I count my breathing up to 21 and back, and then just try to stay still, letting thoughts float. Some people say that meditation is about emptying your mind. Um, the way I learned about it is more about being aware that you're thinking. So if you're thinking about something, you try to lovingly let it go. So you go back to having a still mind, but not trying to not to think, but because it's like, if I ask you not to think about a pink elephant, what
Right.
you think. So
Totally.
I don't want to think. I don't want to think about an empty mind. I mean, that's thinking, right? So that's
Yeah.
not the thing, right? It's just try to stay still, watch your thoughts. And sometimes there's a couple of apps. Insights is one of them. And also these guys in Commune have some nice meditations.
Mm.
Sometimes I listen to some of those. And then I started doing something they call breath work. I don't know if you've
Okay.
heard about that. It's
Oh.
just fascinating way of learning how to breathe differently, and you do breathing exercises that actually pump you up or put you in some state in which you can relax better or think better about your past or something. It's called breath work. I don't have any specifics about it, but so for Wim Hof, the Iceman, I don't know if
Yeah.
you've heard of
Iceman.
him. So Wim Hof has breath work meditation that actually puts you in a state of at the same time activity. It pumps up your immune system by hyperventilating. It's fascinating. I've been doing a little bit of that lately.
Wow. Yeah, there's something about that. The idea just you see the thought there, you let it go. Some kind of activity like that can be really just helpful. I we got a Peloton bike the other day, and they have actually more than just Peloton rides. They've got stretches, strength. They've got
Oh,
a whole
okay.
bunch of different things. They actually have a meditation category,
Nice.
and you can pick different ones on different topics, and one of them is like sleep. I've definitely have used that many times where even if I don't need to, or maybe I'm in those spots where I might stay up late and I really shouldn't, I'll put one of those on, and you can choose 5, 10, 15, 20, and usually at 20 minutes I don't make it to,
Yep.
you just don't make it all the way through.
Yep.
But I
Exactly.
love that you're focusing on that and trying to make it a ritual.
Yep. I like that. And the other thing I love is just walking in nature. So
Mm.
where I live, we're very close to the woods, and I try to go out every day, even if it's for like 15 minutes, to go out to the woods, breathe some fresh airs, be grateful for being healthy, having the opportunity of just smelling clean air,
Yeah.
having my family and stuff. So I think grateful, being thankful, being grateful also has a lot to do, because I keep telling my kids, my wife, I'm just a simple mortal here. I used to drive a lot before, when we could actually drive and travel, right?
Yeah.
And the likelihood that I'm going to be hit by a truck is way higher than many other people that don't travel as much or don't drive as much, right?
Right.
So this may be very well the last thing I do in life, because I now go out on the street and I get struck by a car. And I don't say this from a tragic or dramatic angle. It's just it's realistic. That's who
Yeah.
we are, right? So being thankful for every moment, I think it's so important for me.
There it is. I
So
think I think we need to go hiking at some point.
there you go. And being I'm so thankful that we're having this conversation. I'm having so much fun, Casey. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, I'd love to shift a little bit, and we've learned a lot from you. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. And so my question now is, who are you? Who are you? We've been skydiving together. How does someone come from Barcelona to Boston? Like, what's your story? Take us back,
Well,
little Luis. Where'd you grow up?
well, that's a fascinating story. We need to go back 50 years. I just turned 50.
Wow,
So
congrats.
yeah, actually I was born in New York, believe it
No
or not.
kidding.
And my parents moved to Barcelona when I was 3. So, by all means, I am Spanish, Mediterranean stuff, right? But I had a lot of still my American background with me. So this weird accent that you're trying to understand for the last 51 minutes, it comes from Spain. So hopefully you don't need to put like subtitles and closed captions to
Oh,
understand what I'm
probably,
saying here.
probably.
And I worked with my father, who had a small medical material company in
Okay.
Barcelona, and then I started up on my own. I took a couple of masters in technology in Barcelona, because I just loved the internet and everything computers and stuff, even though my background is in business. And then I started up a few companies. Some worked okay, some totally failed. And then I started up Polymera Technologies with Eric, with my co-founder in Barcelona. And that was a good run. So we grew that
Mhm.
company up to have offices in London, New York, and in Buenos Aires, where we had a
Wow.
development team. We grew it with customers in so many countries. And Red Hat bought that company back in 2012. Red Hat is a software company here in the States. And as part of the acquisition, I moved over here to manage the business for them here. And I'm still working at Red Hat. So I switched roles a few years back. Now I'm managing marketing and sales programs on a worldwide basis for one of the key divisions here.
Mm.
So, and one of the reasons people ask me, yeah, right, why are you still working at Red Hat? Why are you not setting up something on your own? And I'm like, first I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Second, Red Hat is like a big startup. So it's
Really?
not your corporate company at all. So Red Hat is the worldwide leader in open source software,
Hmm.
mostly known about things like Linux, for instance, or JBoss middleware. So it's kind of very technical type of software. But the cool thing is that the culture in Red Hat is very different from the corporate world, and the way in which we work, the way in which we set up new businesses. When I joined the company, we were uh, Red Hat was doing around $1 billion in revenue, some
Okay.
6,000 employees. Now we don't disclose numbers anymore, but it's multiple times that. And we were
Hmm.
acquired by IBM 2 years back, and I think the company was maybe, I forget, 10, 12,000 employees, maybe on the runway to $3, $4 billion. So, experiencing that type of growth in such a big company is just, it's a privilege to be there and learn from there. And I still keep having fun every single day. I'm thinking about, how I'm going to create a marketing program for this new type of product, for this new region. And it's having a global role is really, really very cool. And on the side, whenever I have time, I do some business angel investment. So that's why I'm still in touch
Mm.
with
Right.
small companies and startup companies. I love doing that. And very recently, I co-founded a startup studio and incubator in Barcelona called Bcombinator, where we are starting up companies or incubating very recently created companies. We fund them and we give them the like physical space. We have a co-working space there, and my role there is I try to put in a few hours here and there by nights or over the weekends or something, trying to make sure that companies are properly mentored, providing expertise, helping raise funds. And that's kind of what I'm doing these days. So pretty
Wow.
busy, as you can see.
Wow. Um, Question for you. A little bit of a hypothetical. I may or may not have a time machine up here in Nashua.
Okay.
And let's say, COVID's basically on its way out. You come up here, we get some beers, have you over for dinner. You get to use the time machine. It's in the backyard, it's covered with a tarp. And you get to use the time machine and you go back in time and you get to meet yourself. And you get to meet yourself right before launching maybe your first company. Um, what kind of things would you tell yourself? What kind of advice would you give yourself? And this isn't for the whole world. This is specifically for you.
Hmm.
Knowing everything you know about your journey in particular, what kind of things would you tell yourself?
So I think something that took me too many years to understand, and it's that it's gonna be okay. Don't worry too much, because I can look back and find myself in situations like I think that happens to all of us entrepreneurs, that you're asking about me, right? In which you really are feeling bad about something, you think that's gonna be the end of something, the whole world is gonna explode and you're gonna be left holding it, right?
Yeah.
And then a year after the fact, you look back and can't even remember what was getting you worried in the first place, right?
Right.
So I think that it's gonna be okay. Don't worry too much is what I would tell to my former self 20 years back or something.
That's good.
I think I'm way better with that by now, but still a little bit.
Yeah, you could have saved yourself a little. Now, did you need that though to kick you in the pants, or were you doing too much? Were you thinking, like, because I,
So
I remember there's a
yeah,
time when I would think that my company was going to die every week. Maybe it was, but
right.
and I don't know if that was healthy or not.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Something I used to say when people have real trouble and when they're making a decision is, are you making this decision to get you closer to something or to get away from something you don't want? Right? Because if you're getting away from something, and it could be a relationship, it could be a partner, it could be a company that is going down or something, you don't have a focus. You just want to get out of there in whatever direction you can run away, right?
Yeah.
But if you're moving away because you want to get somewhere, that's different, right? So if you're using, or at least my experience, right? When I was trying to get away from worry or pain or something, it was like, I don't know where to go. I just want to feel better with this person, or feel better with this situation, or this customer, or this whatever it was.
Yeah.
Versus, okay, what am I trying to achieve? I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to grow this person. I'm trying to whatever it is. I've learned that helps me more. And I don't know, for some reason, maybe the meditation, maybe being aware that, hey, I'm just a mortal trying to do my best here, right? That puts me at a state of really going back to what I want to achieve, and in path towards where I want to go, instead of trying to move away from worry. So you're right. Some people actually use worry to propel them to the next step.
Hmm.
I use my vision, my mission, my goals to propel me.
I like that. That feels like that's the right kind, because sometimes if you're trying to scare yourself into doing something, you may be acting defensively when you should be acting, offensive. You should be going after something, and instead of sort of protecting or curling up, you need to be going and getting something. So, yeah, that's a good point. Using that vision kind of circles back around to your very first conversation, saying, you
Yeah,
know, what is it
exactly.
you want to do? Why are we doing it?
What are you
Brilliant.
trying to achieve? Yeah, because that's what really, wakes, you're jumping out of bed every morning, energized to get something done, right?
Right. All right, man. Well, hey, like this has been awesome. Where can people connect with you? They've heard this, they want to learn more about you, maybe network, interface. Where are you at? Throw some social sites at us.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, so I'm easy to find there. Luis Cortes with a final S, not a Z, by the way.
Yes.
I keep fighting the Z, but it's okay. I'm not nothing to do with the Zorro, but actually with Cortes, with the S, right? And I am on Twitter. On my handle would be Li Cortes with an S. So all a single word. So shoot me a message on LinkedIn or ping me on Twitter. I'm happy to look at businesses. I love traveling too. So when I travel, I love meeting people too. So yeah, anything I can help you with, I'm there.
That's awesome. And of course, they want experiences on EO. then you're definitely
course.
the one to reach out to for sure. And
Yep.
we'll put links to all those sites in the show notes as well. So people can
Excellent.
just
Thank
click
you.
right on through.
There you go.
Well, good stuff, man. This is fun, huh?
Yeah,
We
well,
should
I've
hang
had
out
so
more
much.
often.
Yeah, and this hour went like that. So yep,
Really did.
it
That's how you
was
know something's
great.
working. Is I looked at the calendar to figure out how much time we had left. It's like, what, do we have another half an hour? I was like, no, you don't have any time at all. And I was like, wait a
We're off,
second,
right? That means we're having fun.
where did that time go? Yeah, exactly. That's how you know you're having fun. Well, thanks again, man. I appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely, Casey. It was my pleasure. Have fun.
Absolutely. And from all the folks in the EO Boston chapter, thanks for being the president this year. It's been awesome. It's not easy to do that, especially during a corona, but you've led us tremendously well. So I really appreciate that.
I did my best, and I can tell you, I'm so thankful and so lucky with the board of directors that EO Boston has. Committed people,
Oh
great
yeah.
entrepreneurs, people good at heart that they're putting so much energy and engagement here. They really did the hard work. So otherwise we wouldn't have been able to get to where we are today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone pitches in and does their part and makes it a once in a lifetime
Totally.
experience for sure. Well, that's it, everyone. Thanks for coming on here. If you learned something, if you laughed, if you enjoyed it, share this with someone else. Share it with another entrepreneur. Share it with a colleague. And if you're not in EO Boston, you should be. Shoot me a note, casey@eoboston.org, and we can get you introduced to some folks and talking to other people around the channel. But until then, till next time, guys, we'll catch you all later. Leadership in Action is sponsored by the Boston chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization. As the world's only peer-to-peer network exclusively for entrepreneurs, EO helps transform the lives of those who transform the world.